Hey guys out in internet land, we're in AP Environmental Science, day 15 of the third 9 weeks. Welcome to our class, and as always, like and subscribe. So, did you like that? No, it sounded so rigid and coarse. 22. So, in your notes, we're going to hit the notes today. Also, like I said, we got a couple of videos to watch. One is on how to make your cow dung to cook with, which everybody needs to know. Hey, apocalypse happens. Some of y'all are going to be finding some cows. You know, you're going to be like, I'm going to milk that cow. But you can also think, I'm going to take that cow's poop and I'm going to cook with it.
Why wouldn't you just use wood?
I don't know. Maybe you don't have wood. You know, there's people out there on the internet that might not have it. You might have married some guy and moved off to the desert by then, and I don't know how you'd have cows in the desert though. Maybe you moved out to a big city in India somewhere and joined some cult or something. I don't know. Who knows what you've got going on at that point in time. But in the case that you have cows or camels or horses, chickens, then you need to know how to make that into a biofuel. And then also the next video we're going to watch talks about the harmful respiratory side effects of that. So, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then, I found a good video. It's a short one on what a modern day dust storm looks like. The one I found was from Australia, but it's just pretty cool to see like what a huge dust storm looks like. We always think of like the Dust Bowl, but these still happen. And somebody was talking this morning about the dust storm from last year. Who was it? Valerie, I think, said she was in Six Flags.
Yeah, we were in Six Flags.
Oh, and she said the water was dusty or something when it rained.
It like started pouring down rain, and we had to like run to the car. It was like really far away, and we were drenched, and it was just a whole thing. Yeah, it was awful.
That sounds like a good experience. All right, number 22. 22. Common human-made indoor air pollutants. We're on 429 in your book. Include insulation, volatile organic compounds, your VOCs, from furniture, paneling, carpets, formaldehyde from building materials, furniture, upholstery, carpeting, and also lead from paints. Now, let's go through because that's a lot to chew on right there. One, the volatile organic compounds. I actually want to read through this in the book here, so if you'll indulge me a second on 429. And let's talk about some of the key components, and y'all can add these into your notes. Remember, these notes are kind of the bare basics of what's listed out, but y'all need to make sure you understand what they're getting at. So, volatile organics in home products. Many volatile organic compounds are used in building materials, furniture, and other products such as glues and paints. So, there's lots of glues and paints that go into building a home. One of the most toxic is formaldehyde, which is used widely to manufacture building products such as particle board and carpeting glue. So, in case you didn't know, in like a lot of homes where carpet is put down, they'll like lay down, like throw out some glue. Even like wood floors are like this. Carpet's worse though because carpet is like breathable. Like if you get a little water in there, it's eventually going to dry out. And so wood floors are once they get stacked on top of the glue, I don't think there's a lot of fumes coming up through there. But anyway, so the carpeting, like as that glue dries out over time, and those carpets is also just that material breaks down. It's a source of formaldehyde. I would also think, most people that if you have respiratory issues or your kids have respiratory issues, carpet's one of those things you have to kind of worry about because it holds a lot of dust and allergens in it. And also from the glue standpoint. And so most people usually prefer to have hardwood floors because it's easier to keep the dust, you just sweep them up and keep them clean, and the dust element, and you keep down on all the glues and other issues that may come from the having the carpet. So that may be something to consider as you guys get older and you buy a home, and you may want to think about, especially if you have respiratory issues or you have children with any kind of respiratory problems. All right, let's keep going. Formaldehyde, presswood. What is presswood?
Wood that you press.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever, I should bring some in because I didn't really think about this, but if you open up that cabinet back there, or any of you that have a cabinet next to you, if you'll open it up, you can see how there's layers at the side of it. No, on the actual cabinet itself. You see how it's got these layers of wood that are just kind of smashed together? That are like, okay, so basically what happens is they cut into a tree and it's rolling, and they just keep cutting into it till it makes this nice flat sheet. And they do that with a bunch of pieces of wood, and then they just press them together, glue them and press them together into a hard sheet of plywood. Plywood's typically very strong. It doesn't bow easily, and so it's a good building product. You can make it really, I mean, just imagine the size tree you would need to make that size of a cabinet door right there. I mean, it had to be ginormous. So it's an easy way to make big, large, wide things like plywood. That's, you can make plywood that's like 4x8 sheets. So that has some glues and stuff in it. It's not as bad as press wood though. Press wood or particle board is basically just little chips of wood that have been like broken up, and they take like thousands of them, and they mix a bunch of glue with them, and then they press them together. And so they make like 4x8 sheets of press wood or particle board. And this is what's used on the outside of most homes. So once they get the studs and stuff up and the home framed in, the actual sheets that go on the outside first are usually particle board. It's really cheap. It's fairly strong. But the problem is it's got a lot of glues and stuff in it. And so as that breaks down over time, that formaldehyde can be released. And that's kind of where we talked about those FEMA trailers the other day, how they were kind of made very inexpensively. And so as they got hot, those glues and stuff broke down. You have a lot of respiratory issues that results from the formaldehyde and the VOCs in the air in those trailers. The next part's important here. How many of y'all are familiar with the new home or new car smell? Everybody know what I'm talking about? Okay. Let's find out where that comes from. The pungent smell that you may have noticed in a new home or one with new carpeting comes from formaldehyde, which is volatile and degasses over time. So a lot of that new home smell comes from those chemicals as they are kind of that initial breakdown that's happening. They were just produced, they're just put up, and then you get that kind of smell over time. That degassing just means it's breaking down and coming out in a gas form, okay? A high enough concentration in confined spaces can cause burning sensation in eyes and throat and breathing difficulties and asthma in some people. Some of you have asthma. You know who you are. If you're exposed to, have an outbreak at certain points. I don't know if you can kind of tell what causes it at times, but, that's maybe something to look out for that you may be sensitive to. And then the last part here, I want to skip on down. It does also talk about formaldehyde, like the more you're exposed to it, oftentimes people can become more sensitive to it. Kind of like I think about a lot of people with poison ivy. Like some people you'll hear say like, I'm not allergic to poison ivy. You know anybody like that? Probably some of you people. But usually what happens, the more you're exposed to it, the more of an irritant it becomes, and the more your body reacts to it, and then the more you break out. And then, so formaldehyde, the way they've described it here, it's basically kind of the same thing. The more you're exposed, the more sensitive you become. So this may be a problem for somebody like works in a building facility or where they produce these, okay? And then read that last little bit on formaldehyde and cancer, Luke. It's under VOCs in home products.
Formaldehyde has been shown to cause cancer in laboratory animals and has recently been suspected of being a human carcinogen. Okay, so formaldehyde, it's shown to cause cancer in some laboratory animals, and it's suspected of being a carcinogen in humans. What does that mean? Yeah, it may be a cancer-causing agent in humans. So I'm sure this is something we'll probably find out more about in the future, but that is also a worry. Now, does this mean that it's not going to be used in the building products anymore? Does it mean maybe there's better ventilation early on as these products are being put in place? These are questions that we have to ask ourselves. Just like with asbestos that was used a long time ago, I'm sure nobody was putting that in thinking like, well, this is going to cause lung cancer for people. It's just a good insulation. But over time, we found out that was a problem, and that it's something that has to be resolved because of the the cancer issues that it causes. Okay? Any questions? I like your enthusiasm out there. Okay. What number are we on? 3. 22. The last thing there I want to talk about is the lead from paints.
So, do we have leads in paints anymore? No, you shouldn't. Lead paint that you may have around your home would be old lead paint. Now, let's say, DeQuinte, that you decided to paint your room. You know, you wanted to go purple more than whatever color it is now. And so you went in and it's kind of rough, and maybe it's an older home and it's chipping around the windows and stuff. And so you went in and you sanded it down some, and you got those, scraped the chips up and all this kind of stuff. And in doing so, that lead paint, that dust gets in the air. You start to breathe it in, moves through your circulatory system to your brain. And then once it gets to your brain, what does it do? Yeah, it starts killing brain cells. Now, there's a very good Chubby Emu video, which he's this doctor that does all these, this kid ate too many gummy bears and he broke his arm, or what was the one last year? They ate cat poop and the kids started having seizures.
Yeah, and then they drank too much water and
drank too much water, the lady died. He does all these kind of wild scenarios where bad things happen to people in odd situations. And one of them is, he has a kid with some older toys, and just like a little kid, is like one or two, the kids start choose on the toys. And you know, like little kids are like puppies, they'll chew on anything. And so small little chips of wood or chips of lead get in the kid's system, and he winds up like having major neurological damage like that results from this that stays with him throughout his life. So that's an issue. So don't breathe in too much of that lead dust, Quinte, when you're sanding down your house anymore. Okay, gotta watch out. Wear one of those fancy respirators, like the lady that teaches around the corner who kind of sounds like a female Darth Vader. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
I wonder if she watches your videos.
I hope not. I would like to wear that setup though one day. That microphone in there and maybe like paint it all black. Yeah.
You know what I found out the other day?
What did you find out, person in the back whose name I will not mention?
YouTube has an editor where you can after you've posted a video, you can go back in and edit something out.
You can change the video?
Yeah. Well, I don't know how much you can do, but I know that you can at the very least edit stuff out after it's been posted.
You can also add captions.
Yeah, and add captions. You might want to use that one day.
Maybe that's something to think about.
Yeah.
You can edit out after the fact. I thought you just had to delete it if you left something scandalous in there. Next one. Let's talk about 23. Common combustion air pollutants include carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, and particulate matter 2.5. I lost my notes. Turn over to page 416. All right, on 416 we have 4 graphs here. Let's go through and talk about where these pollutants come from. Oh, and also add this one, and I'm sure some of y'all have this pollutant in your home, combustion pollutant. Cigarette smoke. Well, I'll say any kind of smoke, because somebody yesterday was talking about some other kind of smoke. Depending on if you're out there listening in Colorado or wherever you may be, California, maybe a different kind of smoke, who knows. Okay, carbon. Now, keep in mind, this graph right here, carbon monoxide, the graph is above it. So,
416.
she not paying attention?
She forgot.
Get your life together. All right, so carbon monoxide, what's the main source of carbon monoxide?
on-road vehicles.
On-road vehicles, that means like cars and trucks and stuff. Non-road equipment is also pretty big, which would be like your bulldozers and other large and heavy equipment that's used. Produces lots of carbon monoxide. What about nitrogen oxide? What's producing it? On-road vehicles. So it's another big one, non-road vehicles. Also a lot from fossil fuel use and electricity generation, which is mostly from fossil fuel use. Nitrogen oxides, what do they create? I know, but like what pollutants? Nitrogen oxides in the air make?
Nitric acid.
Well, it can produce nitric acid in the atmosphere, which is a component of acid rain. And nitrogen oxides can also react with volatile organic chemicals and produce photochemical smog, which ozone is one of the components of that. Good. Very good. Until y'all been paying attention. Part C, sulfur dioxide. What is it coming from? All right, it says electricity generation is almost the primary source. Now, why is that?
So like burning coal.
Yeah, so you got to think this book's about 10 or 12 years old. So back then, the primary source of electricity production was coal burning. Coal has lots of what in it? Sulfur. Yes, it also has lots of carbon, Jason. You are correct. But it has lots of sulfur, which makes sulfur dioxide. And in the atmosphere, that turns into Colby. Turns into what? Someone that's not paying attention in the least. Are you okay? I can tell. Thank you. What does it make in the atmosphere? What? It can be a component of smog. I read somewhere about some of the yellowish smog. Some of that could be attributed to sulfur. But more so, I was thinking of sulfuric acid, which is another component of acid rain. Good. All right, and then the last one, the particulate matter they've got there, road dust. I mean, they've got a bunch of different sources of this. I'm not going to get into all of them. I don't think you need to worry about the road dust. Cigarette smoke or any kind of smoke, where does that come from?
People smoking.
People smoking. Why do people smoke, Jason?
Maybe to lose weight.
Nicotine. To
No,
lose
no, no,
weight.
no, 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 no. Hear this. I have a family member who stopped smoking and then just recently started back. I mean, she's not smoking anymore now. She's vaping, which is even worse. But she did it because she like lost weight when she used to smoke. And anyways,
Yeah, a lot of times it is considered an appetite suppressant.
yeah.
I don't recommend smoking to lose weight, though. You know how else you lose weight? When you get lung cancer, can't eat anything. You're on chemo. Tell her that. Be like, yeah, you're going to lose weight on smoking. Not the way you want to lose weight. Maybe that was too far. All right. Number 24, radon. Let's turn to page 429, I think, ish in your books. So, radon is an important topic because radon causes lots of cancer. Good. 429, we have a map of where radon is found in the U.S. I've got too many things on my desk here, but I'm going to show you guys. So, here's our map of radon. The darker the blue, the more the radon. Now, obviously, this is kind of wide swaths, so I'm sure it's not all across these individual areas, but I think I'm going to look here and I'm going to see, like Toby on The Office, I'm going to see if I can find some radon test kits. And I was thinking we should test our radon levels here at school. And then I was going to get one and carry it home with me because I have a crawl space. It's like pretty much open to the ground underneath. And so see if there's a radon buildup in some of our soil. Should be interesting. Maybe that's where all those lung cancer deaths are coming from. Not all the stuff people are smoking around here. Who knows? All right. What percentage of, this is actually number 26, exposure to radon gas can lead to radon-induced lung cancer, which is the second leading cause of lung cancer. And what percentage of lung cancer deaths comes from radon? 15. So that's a pretty good bit. There's a lot of people that die from radon each year. What does it say? 21,000 people die each year? Ma'am?
Is the first one smoking?
Which one?
The first leading cause of lung cancer.
Oh, yeah, smoking.
And what is that percentage?
That's a good question. I imagine it's the majority. I don't know how much is from, they attribute to just like normal air pollution and stuff. I would imagine it's well over 60 or 70%.
Wow.
Because, yeah, that's the main thing causing people to get lung cancer. And smoking, you know,
Secondhand too?
what?
Like secondhand too?
Mm,
Count under that?
I don't know how many of those are secondhand. You should look that up for extra credit because I have no idea. You should look up, see what percentage is from secondhand and what's from firsthand. You know, but a lot of cancers, you can get a lot of cancers from smoking besides lung cancer. You can, throat cancer, mouth cancer. I told you about my buddy in college. His mom got colon cancer. Did I tell you that?
Yes.
She had colon cancer and she smoked all her life. I'm sure that was a prime factor in her developing colon cancer. And so you can get lots of that smoke and those carcinogens. There's 43-ish carcinogens in smoke, cigarettes. So those circulate around your body. So it's not just your lungs that you have to worry about. Ma'am? Person who shall not be named, but not in that Voldemort kind of way.
Matt, you don't have to say that. It's okay if you say my name.
Then why can't you say her name? You said other people's names.
She got upset the other day when I said her name.
That wasn't because of my name. It was because of something completely different.
Okay.
Good lord.
Okay.
Anyways, never mind. I changed my
Kodak, tell us.
mind. Oh my god, do you listen to Kodak? Do you listen to Kodak Black?
Kodak got free.
I don't know who that is. I was thinking that was a
He did.
type of photography shirt, and now I realize it looks like maybe gangster rap.
He's one of my favorite rappers.
He gets released early. He didn't do that.
Oh, I thought you got portrait.
Anyway.
Trump didn't pardon him.
He got clemency. He didn't get.
Well, I don't know what that means. All right, let's go. Where do we go? Radon 222 is naturally occurring radioactive gas that is produced from the decay of uranium. So there's naturally, in a lot of places, you can see in the U.S. from that map, a lot of places with uranium under the ground. Now, it's probably fairly small amounts, but what happens is that uranium is radioactive, it's unstable, so it's going to break down over time. It's losing those neutrons, it decays, turns into radon 222. Now, in your book, you'll notice here it says, within 4 days, that radioactive radon breaks down to polonium. So it doesn't last too long. It's breaking down pretty quick. But either radon or polonium can attach to dust and other particles. You can breathe them in, and you've got radioactive material in your lungs. And then radioactive material does what to your DNA? Damages it, and if it damages the right gene, then it can cause cancer. Yeah, it's a story for bio if you're interested. But yes, anyway, it can damage that DNA and cause cancer to result. All right, that's number 24. 25, radon gas can infiltrate homes as it moves up through the soil and enters homes via the, let me get this right. I don't know about chimneys so much. The AP Classroom says the basement or cracks in walls or foundation.
I said that.
Now, the only place I've really heard about like a lot of radon testing or issues with radon is up north, like in the Northeast, and I can assume maybe that's partially due to a lot of older homes up there have basements, whereas most of our homes around here, almost not that over. A lot of older homes up north have basements. Why?
It's colder up north. They need.
It does have to do with being colder, but probably not
Did
why
you say
you,
northeast?
yeah,
Yeah, like food, like wine cellar or something like that.
no.
Because they were
Storms?
Yeah, tornado shelter. That's what I want to say, but that's the northeast.
That's kind
Cause
of.
tornado alley is like.
Wait, where?
In the Northeast.
Oh.
Maybe I've been watching too many House Hunters, but I have this image in my head. And this is the only place where I've seen them do radon tests.
The ground retains heat, so.
No.
Is it like because like that's the original like colony for the US?
No, so here it is. So a lot of homes up north, because they're up north and it gets cold and the ground freezes, they have this thing like you have to build your foundation below the frost line, which may be a foot or 2 or 3, depending on how far north you are. If you don't build your foundation below the frost line, when it freezes that part of the ground, it's going to expand. And so if your foundation's above that, like most all our homes around here in Alabama, they pour concrete foundation and build the home up from that. If you did that up north, as that ground expanded and contracted when it froze and thawed out, then what would happen? It would the foundation would crack. It'd be cracked all over the place. I mean, it might go up or down a little bit, but you would have a lot of cracking and problems result from pipes and other issues. So the easy solution is if you're already going to have to dig down and build this huge foundation, maybe just dig down and you can put a basement in. And so you wind up with a lot of older homes with a lot of basements. Concrete does what over time? Naturally.
Oh, it breaks down.
Yeah, it cracks. I mean, you have all kind of little cracks in concrete. You can see back there in the prep room, if you open up that door, the school looks like it's splitting in two. Or out here in the hallway, there's a big gap where, as things settle, it kind of breaks and splits apart. Yeah.
Really?
What?
You haven't seen that out there?
No.
When they painted this school 4 or 5 years ago, I can't remember when they painted, but they caulked up that hole. And so you can tell in 4 or 5 years, like the caulk, it's pulled apart and the caulk's just kind of falling down in there. It's maybe a ½ inch or an inch, but, but obviously it's settled and moved some. But back there in the prep room, you can see there's a gap in the floor too that's about 1 inch or so. Yeah, Donovan?
So why is our area in Alabama very moderate with the...
Yeah, I don't know. That's what I was saying. I didn't really realize that was a problem around here. It says we're in the moderate zone, and up in North Alabama, it says it's in the high level. I don't know if just nobody knows about it or if it's, I don't think that it's probably in that wide of an area. I think probably there's areas within that have radon issues. Like I say, I'm going to have to get some test kits and see if we actually have a radon issue around here or how much radon we have. That would be interesting to know. Anyway, so where do we go? Basements. It is also dissolved in groundwater that enters the home through a well. So if you have well water, so think, if there's uranium in the ground, in the soil, and it's breaking down to radon, and you're sucking water out of the soil with a well, then it's going to have radon in that water. So that's another issue you'd have to think about if you had well water. Does anybody in here have well water?
I used to.
You have it at your home still? Shoes? We have it. My parents still have well water, but it's pretty rare nowadays just because it's pretty inexpensive to get city water run to your home. And for the most part, our city water around here is super duper clean compared to most places.
The people still make wishes and wells.
Do you ever throw some pennies in there, Colby?
Not that kind of.
No. Y'all have a misunderstanding of what well water is nowadays. If you were to like dig a well out by your house, Jason, the well would be like this wide. It would be like a 6 or 8 inch pipe that's dug down in the ground, and you put like a plastic pipe in there to keep the ground from falling in. And then all you do is you shove a electrical line with a water pump on it all the way down in there with a water line hooked up to it. And so that electrical pump pumps the water out of the hole. But the well is not any bigger than that. Yeah.
So we had a well at my old house, and it was like, we had a built well outside of our house, right next to our driveway. And it like fell apart during one of the storms, and it was so sad because it was really pretty. But they boarded it up, and then my stepdad just kind of like bulldozed it over and built like a doghouse looking thing.
Was it a big well?
It was like.
Was it like one, like if you looked at it, there was a big well like people had dug?
It
Okay.
was like, probably
like an old one.
if 4 tables together, that's how big it was.
Yeah, I mean, my parents actually have one right beside their house like that was the original well, and like you can still take the top off and look down in there and see water in it. It's just those aren't very. I mean, I think it's a lot more sanitary to have a smaller one because otherwise water collects in there. If something falls in there and dies, you're sucking up stuff. So the modern day wells, the way they make them, are a lot easier, and you don't have to dig gigantic holes. Yeah.
This map would be a lot different now, wouldn't it? Because this book was made 8 years ago.
Well, I don't know. The map on radon would be different, would it?
Well,
The radon in the soil wouldn't change.
it could.
Well, keep in mind the uranium. I mean, the radon does break down pretty quickly. I don't know how fast the polonium breaks down, but I would think the uranium, you just have kind of almost a continuous supply because it has such a long half-life. It's releasing radon and pretty slowly.
Oh.
But if you want to look that up for extra credit and contradict me, I'd be glad for you to do so.
I really don't.
I'm always willing to learn. All right, here's what we're going to do. I think we're finished with number 26. We are going to watch the video. For those of you out here in YouTube land, I highly recommend. There's lots of videos on, I think I looked up dung burning. And so there's a really good one from India where they, like I said, show how they make the dung patties, how they cook with them. And then also I found a video on dung burning air pollution that talks about the respiratory issues that you find. Mostly, who do you think is going to have the respiratory issues at home? Children and women. That's right.
Women.
Why women, Sophie? What do you do, Sophie, at home?
It's because of sexism.
It is sexism.
Is that really enough?
No, the women are doing most of the cooking.
Oh.
So they're right next to the fire with all this stuff coming off of it, and so.
So sexism is
I mean, my mama can't cook, so she don't know.
Your mom can't cook, so this would not be a worry for her, or maybe she would either starve to death. Good day, people.